Well, good morning, everyone. It's 10:30. I see a few people are entering the lobby. I'm going to give another minute or so. Looks like I got a lot of. Go ahead. Sorry, I thought I heard somebody talking. I think I had about 18 confirms for this, so just give another minute and I'll get started. This meeting, just to get started, this meeting, it will be recorded. So those that couldn't make it, I'll send a follow-up email with a recording of it. And then if there's any questions, I'll attach questions to it as well. And then hopefully we can get this posted on our website too for future guidance for health departments. So, well, I'm going to go ahead and get started. And if the next slide will move. So today is just this meeting. Basically, I wanted to create this meeting to give local health departments a refresher on the self-evaluation process. I have about 15 slides that I'll go through as an overview of the guidance manual and also the self-assessment review process itself. This will include just a brief description of the purpose of the worksheet and comments and the comment sheet as well. I will also talk about like the field verification process. And I wanted to leave time at the end to have if there's any questions or discussion on items. And then I'll also shortly talk about commonly missed items that we normally see, Kathy, Anita, and I, that we have seen when we review the files that are sent to us. Anita, Kathy, and Dave, I think they're all here today. If there's any questions during the talk, you can enter them in the chat. If not, we will circle back and answer your questions at the end. So first, I just want to give a little overview on what's in the manual. There's a ton of information in our manual, such as evaluation criteria. There's about 2 or 3 pages on the type 3 water supplies, self-assessment information, such as what needs to be submitted to us and the process itself. And there's a ton of example forms and checklists available for use. And then and also enforcement procedures. And then there is information for water supply for subdivisions and condominiums. And also
no, that's fine. I just
guidance.
Was clarifying that we don't know. So we'll look on the well log.
If anyone has their mic on, can you please make sure it's muted? I hear a little bit of talk in the back.
Taylor Irwin, mute yourself, Taylor. Sorry, everyone.
No, that's all right. So, and just to let you know, the latest information will always be the latest version of the manual will always be on our website. And there's been no changes to the manual itself, just some minor updates with language in the past. So nothing new is in there or nothing is going to change. So, with the private and type 3 self-assessment review, there should be a key staff person as a primary contact responsible for the program, oversight, and the monitoring. Also, they should be responsible for the submission of the annual self-assessment report and the quarterly private and type 3 activity reports. And there is an electronic version available to submit your quarterly reports online now. I know many of you are using that. The essays are due November 1st of each year. And we highly recommend as EGLE staff to review your program throughout the fiscal year. Implementing this can aid in timely submissions of the self-assessment by November 1st, as well as proactively correcting any issues during the fiscal year that may be observed in your program. documents that we are looking to have submitted, and this information is also in the guidance manual, but the evaluation report form, worksheet showing the office review of the permits for each staff member. There is a table in the NPR manual to determine the number of permits for each staff. If the evaluator cannot review the minimum number of permits per staff member, please provide an explanation in the report. Any supporting documentation for the files. This can include policy and procedures for issuing water wells near areas of contamination, or a policy and procedure for your final inspection process, or documentation for any follow-up items such as violations observed. So what is in the file? The permit application should be provided, approved permit itself, the well record that's associated with the file, and also water samples. These could be non-detect and detect samples, so any water samples that are associated, or if it's a site of contamination and a VOC sample is required on the permit itself, please include those results as well. Any letters, these can include approval or non-approval for the water well system, or a notification for a positive coliform result. A detailed site plan needs to be included as well. This would meet the NPR for a detailed site plan. And then any final inspection check sheets. Now, final inspection check sheets are not required to meet the NPRs, but they are helpful for EGLE staff in determining compliance or non-compliance. So it helps us to see what you see during the field inspection if the wellhead was inspected, and as well as the inside components such as the pressure tank. Moving on to the evaluation report form, be sure to complete each checkbox. The questions under each indicator follow the NPR manual. So any additional guidance or explanation of how to meet each indicator is in the NPR manual itself under evaluation criteria. If you need additional guidance, or you could get a hold of Kathy or I. And then under each NPR is the comment section. So please provide any detailed comments of how your LHD has met each indicator or not met it. So also provide, and providing any detailed comments or policy procedures helps EGLE staff in determining if we agree with your findings. And this can also speed up the EGLE review process itself and to get your information back to you. Moving on to the review worksheet. So the next 4 slides will discuss the completion of the worksheet itself. The worksheet is divided into 4 sections. These sections are the permit, the well record, inspection, and lastly, the approval process. The file reviewed can be finalized by either an approval or non-approval. The answer should be in a yes, no, or not applicable format. Please provide any additional information in the comment section that it's related to for each file. So these would be like deficiencies in the well record and a follow-up on positive coliform samples, or follow-up on violations that are seen in the field. So the permit part of the worksheet itself, is it a newer replacement water well? So either can be reviewed, include any minimum isolation distances that are applicable to the site, and also a detailed site plan is also required. During some of my past reviews, I've seen site plans that only include a box where the house is and an X where the proposed well is to be. That would not qualify as a detailed site plan. So be sure to include where existing wells are, if it's a replacement, if there's any overhead power lines, any possible or known contamination sites, if there's animal yards present and or fuel tanks that we often see in like older homes in the basement. For existing wells, the language for well plugging must be included in the permit. Any additional requirements that are unique to the site, such as water quality concerns that are known or a possible contamination source, and any special construction requirements. For example, if it's a contamination site, steel casing or cement grout, if a deviation was issued, and any related paperwork to the deviation. So the review worksheet for the well record, what we're looking for there is to ensure that the well record was received within 60 days. If it is an existing well, if the abandoned well was plugged, and if it was plugged properly. And also we're looking at if the technical staff is able to review the well record for any accuracy and completeness. The well record is date stamped, as in, so Well Logic is automatically date stamps well records, but if it's a paper record, it must be date stamped by the local health department. And then any appropriate documentation for unplugged wells. So this is something I commonly see is not enough information provided for an unplugged well. So if a homeowner wants to keep an existing well, sometimes it's a good idea to have a policy and procedure for staff to follow, so it's consistent when existing wells are kept in service. So final inspection documentation can either be a check sheet or information provided on the final inspection form. Some health departments provide a policy if there is not a checklist for the final inspection process. And as a reminder, if the local health department does not utilize a check sheet for us to review in the self-assessment process, please submit the policy every year. All the minimum items must be approved and either given a yes, no, or not applicable rating on the worksheet. The minimum items I have on the slide itself, and they do follow the worksheet. And then provide any additional documentation again in the comment section if an item on the worksheet is not approved, and if applicable, provide additional documentation such as enforcement letters. The review worksheet, so the approval portion of the review worksheet, include water sample results in the file. If the water sample results were positive, please include notification to the well owner, either letter or notes in the file that the well owner was notified and the date that they were notified, as well as any repeat samples results that were non-detect. Provide the non-approval or approval information as well. This can be either a written communication in form of a letter, inspection form, or other document. Also, if there was enforcement involved with that specific file reviewed, include any documentation for the enforcement. The comment section. The comment section of the evaluation report should be used to document both NPR compliance and non-compliance, and also to clarify any issues such as deviations, special construction requirements, and any groundwater concerns. Also, if there are issues with the file, remember to provide additional provide the follow-up information. For example, when I am completing a standard evaluation at a local health department, I may note if there was a violation observed and what was done as a follow-up to the correction. Or commonly, I see inaccurate information on the well record compared to what was documented during the final inspection, such as in the example picture on the slide. The isolation distance on the well record to the closest source of possible contamination was not close to what was observed in the field during the final inspection. So those are items that I may note during a review. So field verifications. So the field verifications are completed to determine the accuracy and also the proper documentation of the final inspection. So The well record must be in hand and with you during the field verifications. And I tell that to staff too, when I go out and do a standard review at a local health department, to have the well record before they do the final inspection. All aspects of the water system need to be observed. So those are the outside and inside components of the water well system. So that would be the pressure tank, the sample tap. And then if you do have check sheets, utilize them. They're helpful with us with completing the exam. And I also think helpful with some staff or with staff at health departments. And then you are required to do one field verification per staff member. These can either be separate from the files that are reviewed and submitted to us, or included. So lastly, I wanted to go over just commonly missed items that Anita, Kathy, and I have seen during the self-assessment process. Inadequate comments in the file itself. These include both in the report and under the comment section for each file review. And then not providing all documentation in the file. So like I said before, any follow-up water samples, any follow-up on any enforcement action. And then field verification was either not completed or only the outside components of the water well system was inspected, not the inside components during field verification. And believe it or not, reviews not submitted by the required deadline. So November 1st, they must be submitted. So as a recommendation, please try to work on your self-assessment review during the fiscal year itself. And then including a file that was not finalized. So when finalized, I mean given approval or non-approval. And then also files reviews must be permitted and finalized within the fiscal year. And then lastly, email confirmation. Sometimes files that are sent to us, they're just too large, so they have to be sent in multiple emails. And I know that some of my health departments are well aware of this. So I get 3 or 4 emails when a self-assessment submitted. If you can, please ask for confirmation, and we will send back a confirmation as well, so that we both know that I received it and you sent it. But I think that wraps up what I wanted to cover today. Let me. If there are any questions, we can discuss those now. I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Hey, Tweak, I think people are raising their hands. I think Chris had his hand up.
I'm sorry, I couldn't see your hands because I was sharing my screen. So I was I'm sorry, I couldn't see your hands raised.
It's okay. It's Christopher Monroe. So you had mentioned right there towards the end about the permit happening during the fiscal year. How much of a stickler are you on that? I think this goes for both water and sewage, as far as when the permit comes in as compared to when the well is inspected and final. Is there a little bit of leeway there? You see where I'm going with this, like the timing of permit or final inspection thing? And I'm guessing everyone in the state has that question in their mind from time to time.
Yes, they do. And to be honest, I've struggled with it as well, especially these past couple of years since COVID. When I'm going to a health department completing a standard evaluation, is not having adequate files that were permitted and finalized. So these can be finalized again, can be either by a non-approval or approval at the end of the file. So either approval or non-approval, but I have struggled with that as well, as not having adequate files. So I make a comment in the comment section when I'm reviewing it as to why there was not enough files. So just provide an explanation if you do not have adequate files per sanitarian. So as far as you saying if we're sticklers or not, we're really trying to stick to that because it's only fair to fail or pass a health department on the files within the fiscal year. So I hope that makes sense.
It does. And so it's good to hear, if we're doing the inspection during that fiscal year, that's really what you're looking for, correct? So October 1 through September 30 of that year when the inspection is being completed. Okay, that works.
Yes. Okay. Were there any other hands raised or questions?
I think Taylor had a question.
Taylor, go ahead.
Yeah, so at Central Michigan, we're switching our permitting system to Fetch currently, and I'm working on transitioning our processes over and everything. And I just wanted to clarify, we have always sent out letters that basically support the actual report that we send out with it. If we're sending a final inspection report out to the homeowner that has, like, if it's not approved, it says, a safe bacteria sample is required, whatever the reasoning is, do we have to have that letter to accompany it, or is just sending the final inspection report to the homeowner sufficient for meeting that?
I guess Kathy and Anita, jump in if you can, but I think what you're asking is a letter required, or is the actual report form required, or both? Is that what you're asking?
I just need to know if we have to send if the letter's required in addition to the report, or if the report is sufficient.
The report's sufficient. Kathy, are you jumping in?
The language says written notification of approval or non-approval. So if it's clear that you're giving it non-approval, either like a signature at the bottom of a report, you don't have to do a separate letter. It just needs to be clear that written approval or non-approval is issued to the permit applicant or well owner. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's how I read it. I just wanted to clarify, just because it wasn't the way we were doing it before. We were always sending a letter before, so I wanted to make sure that that was acceptable.
Yes.
Hey, Taylor, this is Anita. If you can just send me a copy of what you guys would send out, just so we can take a quick look at it, then we know for sure. That would be great.
Okay.
Yeah, Anita made a good point. If anyone is changing, and I've had that a lot with the past couple of years, where health departments are moving to a different program for permitting, where they have sent me letters or approval, non-approval forms, and I have reviewed them. So at any time, we're available for that. And we can look through forms for you, but not some health departments send letters, some don't. But like Kathy said, it needs to show approval or non-approval and why it's not approved or approved. So
yes. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? I'm glad everyone can make it today. Like I said, I just wanted a refresher. I thought this meeting was needed just so that we're all on the same track. And this will be recorded and on our website too for future use. So. Okay, if there are no other questions, you can always follow up. If you have questions later, you can always send an email or call one of us in the future. So thank you everyone for joining today. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thanks. See you guys.